video conference without the requirement of a physically present quorum of the Rock Island City Council due to the disaster declaration issued by Governor Pritzker. Because of this order related to COVID-19 health concerns affecting the state and the city, the mayor has determined that an in-person meeting at City Hall with all participants may not be practical or prudent. Alderpersons and staff may not all be physically present at City Hall due to the disaster, and physical attendance at City Hall may be limited. To participate remotely during the public comment or public hearing portion of the meeting, please join by phone at 1-515-890-5328, PIN 148-006-458#.
Thank you very much. Roll call.
Alderperson Robinson.
Present.
Hurt.
Here.
Gilbert. Swanson.
Here.
Parker.
Here.
Poulos.
Here.
Geenan. Mayor Tomes.
Here. Very good. Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Remain standing for a moment of silence, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Public comment. Sheet here, and thank you, sir. First up is Paul Fessler.
Hello, council members and mayor. I'm speaking here on behalf of the Community Caring Conference, and I'm a board member. I'm the president of the board of the CCC, and Ashley here is also on the board, and he's next on the list, so we're 1-2 punch here. But what we would like to do is just ask for your consideration once again for the CCC to be included in the city budget. And we just had our Heroes Banquet after several years of not having this big banquet. That a couple of you were at least a couple of you were there that night about 10 days ago. We were celebrating our 45th anniversary, and so the CCC has been working in Rock Island neighborhoods, doing block clubs, neighborhood watch groups for a long time. During most of those years, the CCC has been included in the city's regular budget. And I'm pretty sure mostly that was the general fund, but somebody could go back historically and look. So in the last few years, CCC had a bit of a hiatus. We were kind of dormant for about 2 or 3 years here in the 2000s, and about 6 years ago, some of us decided that Rock Island's a little bit lonelier place without the Community Caring Conference, and we got it jump-started, restarted, and we then after a year or two, we were able to come back to the city and get funding. So we've been in the city's regular budget now the last few years for $10,000. And that accounts for about 1/3 of our total budget. The main thing we do is pay our part-time staff person to go out and work with neighbors. And she directs people to the services that they might need. She gets people together to organize neighborhood groups and block clubs so they can work sometimes on crime prevention and work with the city police department, sometimes on other issues, cleaning up the neighborhoods, which we just had a couple of cleanups. So we're really proud of what we've been able to do in the last few years, and we couldn't have done it without the city's financial support. And we're pretty grassroots with CCC. One part-time staff person. We go out and raise funds on our own. We just raised a little bit of money with that Heroes Banquet, but not enough to make up for not receiving these city funds. We write grant applications, volunteers write and submit grant applications and handle our finances so that our staff person can get out in the neighborhood. So with that, I'll just say that we appreciate your consideration if you can find a way to continue our funding.
Did you want to say something also?
Yes, I would like to say that, our board is made up of a lot of motivated individuals, and collectively, the goals that we accomplished, it would behoove the city to invest in an organization that gets a lot from a little. So I look forward to receiving the budget and continuing to do the good things that we're doing, that we've been doing.
Thank you. It just lets you know, it currently is in the budget, but the budget's not approved yet, so no promises yet, but it is currently there.
Okay,
To try to make it happen.
thank you.
Okay, Scott.
I don't need to say anything. I saw that we were on the agenda, so I'll
Yeah.
just wait till that happens. That's all right?
If you wish to speak, we sometimes it's optional whether you speak at that time or not. So if there's something you'd like to say about it,
No, I'm good. Yep.
okay,
Thank you.
thank you. All right. Gay?
Well, I'd like to say good evening and thank you for having us again, or allowing us to speak. I actually live in the Fourth Ward, so I did contact my representative about this issue, and she responded to me promptly, and so I appreciate that. And I know that Shelley contacted her representative about this issue that we're getting ready to present, and he responded to her as well. So we know it is has been placed at the attention of the council, and I'm sure that my representative will, do what she can to answer some of these questions that we have. But we still want this on record with the city council that these are our concerns. So we prepared a statement, and it goes, on September the 21st, 2020, the Rock Island City Council announced the African American Civil Rights Grant award provided by the Historic Preservation Fund and the Parks and Services in the amount of $33,500. It was made public that the City of Rock Island had contracted MediaLink and Pearson Consultant to facilitate the project. The purpose of the grant is to highlight the African American experience in Rock Island. However, the City of Rock Island made these decisions without conversation or input from Rock Island's African American community stakeholders. Our community is rich with individuals who have been actively compiling and documenting the history of the Black community. As residents of Rock Island and members of the Rock Island Coalition of African American Stakeholders, we request that the City Council immediately cease its plans for this grant until residents of the African American community can learn more about the project. We consider the lack of discussion with the African American community in planning and realizing this grant to be an issue of exclusion, reinforcing the reality of inequity in Rock Island and in the Quad Cities. We request a meeting with the city manager, Randy Tweet, and ask that he, along with the city council, address the following issues. We'd like to know, what role did Rock Island's Economic Development Department play in the developing, contracting, and submitting the grant? There is a history of the African American community in Rock Island being excluded and ignored. We request that the city develop a standard set of protocols to ensure that the Black community is not excluded from discussing and developing issues and actions that will impact the African American stakeholders, residents of Rock Island. So that's what we would like from you. And we'd like this, we're presenting this because we really want this to be in your records. And we would like a response at some point as to how these things are going to be addressed. Did you have anything? That's it. Okay, thank you.
No, that's fine. And it will be addressed. Mr. Tweed is off on medical right now, and so he's not available. Otherwise, he would be responding directly.
All
And
right,
so as soon as he gets stronger and better, he will be reaching out, and I'm sure there's going to be a meeting with you
Okay.
in regards to this.
Is that going to be prior to the city's official acceptance of this grant or after?
A good chance it'll be before that. At this point, it's going to come in front of council, scheduled at this point, December 13th,
Okay.
right? December 13th?
I believe
December
so.
13th. That's the next
I'll defer to, okay, yeah, I believe so.
That's the next council meeting. At this point, it's what it's planned for, and so that's 3 weeks away. And so there should be able to be able to meet at that point. But normally we don't do a lot of dialogue, but once again, it's for the most part, it's a pass-through type deal. The city did officially apply, but it was not, we didn't fill it out, or per se, it was so at a request of another company, Metrolink, and it is their program to implement and put together, not the city's.
But the problem for us is, who decided that they had the authority to represent African Americans without even discussing any of this with us, and to bring on a said expert in our community who's not from our community and has been very disrespectful in his interactions with us?
I think their plans are to incorporate and talk to other individuals like yourself and everything else. They didn't even think they'd get the grant. Now that they got it, I think they're going to be more inclusive. So, but that's a conversation that'll take place.
All right, but I don't mean to be disrespectful.
That's fine.
But the fact that it was almost like it was a throwaway grant, and you didn't think you were going to get it, but you did get it, so now you're set with, you have this dilemma of, I don't even know why you applied, not you personally, why it was applied for. And because no one even thought they would get it, so why even apply for it?
She just said, we've done this with a number of other groups, that it requires a municipality to either endorse it or do the application and everything else, and we're doing it for them, on behalf of them.
Yeah, but
and
they
so-
don't have the right to do it for us.
They-
That's the whole problem.
And that's a discussion that we'll have, that we, or I, not that whether I'm a part of it or not, that you can have with Randy and Tweet and the organization.
I think fundamentally we have an issue here that if someone is going to even thinks that they are going to research another's community, then it is protocol that they respect that community before they write the grant, to get their ideas, to get their permission, to find out what they know. It's not about, it doesn't matter if they thought you thought you were gonna get the grant. These things should have been done before the grant was written. And this is our problem. Our problem is that we're not getting people to understand where we think the disrespect lies. It lies at the very beginning. Yeah. So the fact that they're going to come back and they intend to come back and speak with us, that's not
The issue.
that's not it.
Really,
because we had to contact them.
I understand. And like I say, we try not to get too much dialogue going back and forth. They had 2 days to apply for it, so there really wasn't a lot of time for much. They had 2 days from the day that they saw it to the day that the application was submitted. And so it's very difficult to get
I
all
guess
the-
we have a differing of opinions.
And we don't, I'm just relaying what I've been talked to and told about it. And I'm not saying just trying to shield myself, the council and everything else. And so that's where I think that those devils in the detail could be talked about with Randy Tweet, Natalie with the Metrolink, and to where to go from, the way to go forward from here.
Well, we wanted to go on record that.
It's on record.
As far as the African-American community stakeholders are concerned, we're giving you guys a vote of no confidence when it comes to this grant. We are not satisfied with the people who are implementing this grant, and we think the whole process needs to be reviewed. and not just sit down and talk to us, because there's no way to pacify us on this. We really are
I'm not
very
looking
upset
at trying to
about that.
pacify you.
Yeah.
I'm just letting you know that your request is to sit down and meet, and that should be granted, will be granted.
Yes, not just to meet, but to meet so we can have some input and some action as to who is in charge of telling our stories. And that's what we want.
Okay, thank you.
Also, you indicated that on December 13th, what is going to happen on December 13th?
We have a council meeting, and on that council meeting is to agree to a development agreement, not a development agreement, but the contract, that it's a pass-through to this other organization, other group. Is that the grant has come to us, we did it on their behalf, so now the agreement would be to pass that money to them to do the project.
And so you'll vote on that on December 13th, or?
It could be tabled, it could be delayed to another meeting, it could be voted on, that, until we get close to that date, I can't commit to that.
Okay, so we'll wait and know maybe from our alderman whether when Randy Tweet will be available? Is that
Yes.
what- Okay. All right.
Or he'll reach out, somebody will reach out to you.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right. I think that's all that's signed up. Is there anybody virtually, public comment? Out there? Hearing none and seeing none here in the room. I guess I would like to take one moment for a public comment. And I'm going to read this just so I make sure that I get the details correct. So I apologize for reading part of this. But so on Friday, November 19th, 2021, the city clerk delivered to me an official resignation letter from Dave Geenan, 7th Ward Alderman, which did indicate it was effective immediately. Pursuant to the Illinois compiled statute 65 ILCS 5/3.1-10-50, I, the mayor of Rock Island, must appoint a qualified person to fill this vacancy within 60 days. Once the appointment has been made, members of the city council shall act upon this appointment within 30 days. The appointee shall serve out the remainder of the 7th term until April 2023 election. Qualified persons are defined by Illinois statute 65 ILCS 5/3.1-10-5, interested in serving as the 7th Ward alderperson, pursuant to appointment by the mayor, shall submit a letter of interest to RIMAYOR@RIGOV.org, RIMayor@RIGOV.org, or by mail to Mayor, myself, Mike Tomes, at 1528 3rd Avenue, Rock Island, Illinois, 61201, by Friday, December 3rd, 2021. And I want to say once again, not once again, but we'll say, we want to thank Alderman Dave Geenan for his service to the city and Rock Island, in the city of Rock Island, and wish him well in his future endeavors. He's done well for the city and worked hard at representing the 7th Ward. So thank you for that. If there's no other public comments, we'll move to item number 7.
Minutes of the November 8th, 2021 City Council meeting.
Move to approve the minutes as printed.
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion?
Alderperson Robinson.
Aye.
Hurt.
Yes.
Swanson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Pulis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item number 8.
Minutes of the first November 8th, 2021 executive session.
Move to approve the executive session minutes.
Chief.
Just so everyone's aware, there were some changes to the executive session minutes under this item number, but those changes have been made.
We need a second.
Second.
Is there any discussion other than the changes that were made? Roll call.
Alderperson Robinson.
Aye.
Hurt?
Yes.
Swanson?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Pulis?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item number 9.
Minutes of the second November 8th, 2021 executive session.
Move to approve the executive session minutes.
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Robinson?
Aye.
Hurt?
Yes.
Swanson?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Pulis?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item number 10.
Update Rock Island.
Update Rock Island. So bear with me, there's a few items here, a little lengthy, but it's that time of year that things are happening. Thanksgiving holiday, garbage schedule. Garbage will be on schedule Monday through Wednesday, with the rest of the week 1 day late. Recycling will be held on schedule Tuesday and Wednesday. The rest of the week, 1 day late. Yard waste will be in its normal collection schedule. The drop-off center located in Milan will be open on Saturday from 7 to noon. The City of Rock Island's offices will be closed Thursday, November 25th, and Friday, November 26th. Rock Island Park and Recreation is bringing some Christmas cheer with several ways to have fun this holiday season. Letters from Santa. Let Santa tell your children they've been good, but need to clean their rooms more, or compliment good grades. Registration fee is $5. Call 309-732-7275 or register online or fill out a form with info about your child. And fill out. To register, deadline is December 11th. You've been Grinched? Treat your friends or family to a Grinchy surprise. Park staff will deliver and place signage and 20 rotten eggs in their yard. After 24 hours, park staff will remove the signs. They will also receive a note telling them who's Grinched them. This program costs $20 and is a fundraiser to support youth programs. This will be Grinching people from December 15th to December 23rd. Call or register online. Santa Claus is coming to town. Santa Claus will be available Saturday, December 11th through Christmas Eve, December 24th, for home visits and groups together. In order to defray Santa's travel expense, a fee of $50 will be charged for home visits, with fees for larger groups varying on size of group and length of visit. Reservations will be taken through December 10th. Join Rock Island Park and Recreation Foundation for a wine and dine on Thursday, December 2nd at 6:30 p.m. Taste several sparkling and red holiday wines just in time for the holiday season. A special dinner will be provided by Riverfront Grill. Fee is $65 and you can pay at the door. But call 309-788-5635 to make a reservation before November 29th. I get that right, Bill? All right, thank you. Visit Santa and Mrs. at the Quad City Botanical Center, December 10th and 11th, and take your own photos. Christmas lights, recycling drive. Bring your old broken string of lights to recycle at the Trinity Lutheran Church at 1330 13th Street in Moline through January 1st. How many have Christmas lights that don't work from year to year? So let's get those recycled and take them to Trinity Lutheran Church and let them recycle them. Community Confronts Drive welcomes donation. Community Comforts Drive welcomes donations. The Rock Island Public Library is collecting donations of household supplies and personal care items through December 4th at the downtown and southwest library locations. Collections items will be distributed to Hearts of Hope Outreach Center and the Rocky Resource Room at the high school. For more information and a full list of items needed, please visit the library's website or call 309-732-7341. And that's the bottom of the list. Item number 11.
Mayor Tones will close the regular meeting and open a truth and taxation public hearing for discussion on a proposed property tax increase for the city of Rock Island for 2021.
Close the regular meeting and open a public meeting. If there's anybody that wishes to speak in regards to the property tax issues, to increase or decrease, and at this point, we're holding the same, but anybody wish to speak about the property taxes? Anybody out there virtually? No? Not seeing any movement. All right, we will close the public meeting and reopen the council meeting for the regular meeting. And then we have, Linda, you gotta talk, or?
Yeah, presentation of the financial management report for the third quarter.
I'm sorry, I jumped ahead.
I have the right one since I have two back to back.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to start with the financial management report ending September 30th of 2021. Okay, so the benchmark for this period is 75%. Forward a few pages. Okay, so the first report that we're going to review is the revenues, expenditures, and net position report. So as the title states, it gives a summary by fund of the budgeted revenue versus the actual. So the budgeted revenue is for the entire year, whereas the actual is for 9 months. Expenditures also budget for the entire year versus 9 months of actual expenditures. And then there's the net position, which is actually the revenues over the expenditures, budget, and actual. And that last column is the cash available per fund. So we're going to take a look at the general fund. So the general fund revenue at this point is on target at 75% of budget. Expenditures were reported at 68% of the targeted benchmark of 75%. The majority of city departments are reflected in the general fund. We will review some specific state and local revenue a few pages over. So after the general fund comes the special revenue fund. The first one is the public library fund. They received about 76% of its budgeted revenue at the third quarter mark. The largest revenue source for the library are property taxes. As of September 30th, 3 of 4 distributions for 2021 have been received. Next, the tax increment financing or TIF district funds, or a combination of several TIF districts. The main source of revenue for each district are property taxes. Revenues is reported at 73% of budget, while expenditures are reported at 6% due to delays in projects. Then we have Riverboat Gaming. Revenue is reported at 40% due to the continued impact of the COVID pandemic. Expenditures are at 35% of the targeted benchmark. This percentage will increase when debt payments are made in December. Next, we have the capital projects and street funds. This includes the Capital Improvement Project Fund, which is supported by the motor fuel tax, and the street fund, which is supported by the gasoline diesel tax, which is local. Revenues were at 20% of budget, while expenditures were at 46% as of September 30th, due to pending projects. There were no significant increases yet in the gas and diesel tax revenue. You know, as the prices go up, we haven't seen that increase yet in revenues, but probably over the next few months. Okay, so onward down to other governmental funds. The first one is the American Rescue Plan Fund. This was created to track expenditures related to this disbursement from the federal government. As of September 30th, 50% of the total allocation in the amount of $13 million has been received, and the other 50% is expected to be received probably around May of next year, the same as the last one. So the Motor Fuel Tax Fund is used to account for revenue from the state gasoline tax and expenses related to approved motor fuel tax projects. Revenue is reported at 55% of the benchmark for September. Expenditures are transferred annually to reimburse the general fund. Expected transfer for the general fund is $1.1 million as budgeted, but that could change. And $1 million is budgeted for transfer to the Capital Improvement Fund. So next we have the Motor Fuel Tax Rebuild Illinois Fund. This is actually a grant. It's distributed through the state of Illinois for capital projects related to transportation. Actual receipts during this period totaled $858,000, which represents the first and second installments of 2021. Funds will be dispersed twice each year over a 3-year period. This is year 2. Rock Island has received $1.7 million of the expected $2.5 million award. Then we have the Housing and Community Development Fund. This is used to account for costs related to the operations of the Community Development Block Grant. Revenue is reported as 47%, and expenses are reported at 43%. This is due mainly to some unspent funds in the service area. Moving on to the Martin Luther King Community Center Operations Fund. This is used to account for costs related to the operations of the community center. Revenue and expenditures are both near the 75% benchmark as of September 30th. Then we have the Foreign Fire Insurance Fund. This is used to account for foreign fire insurance tax monies expended by the fire department for supplies and equipment as approved by the Foreign Fire Insurance Committee. And then going on to Community Economic Development Fund. This is used to account for contributions and grants which support various special economic development activities. And as we look at the CIP budget, you're going to see some of those activities. Revenue is reported at 81%. The majority of revenue comes from transfers from the general fund and gaming fund. Expenditures are at 31% of budget due to delays in projects. So the debt service fund, that pays for general obligation debt for non-enterprise funds with transfers again from the gaming fund. Interest is due in June. Interest and principal are due in December, so the majority of the expenditures will occur next month. Revenue is at 24%. Next. So next we're going to look at the proprietary or enterprise funds. These funds kind of operate like private businesses. The intent is that costs of providing goods or services to the general public are primarily recovered through user fees. So we have the water, wastewater, stormwater, and solid waste funds revenues. And these are at or near the target benchmark of 75%. So really no discussion there. Expenses are below the benchmark for this 9-month period. And this is mainly due to a pending payout of Johnson Controls, which happened after this report was done. So if you were to look at those numbers again, the percentages are pretty much near 75% also. Parks and Recreation Fund, 9-month revenue is at 75% of budget. 19% of the budgeted revenue comes from property tax. Expenses are being reported at 64% of the budget. Then we have Sunset Marina. Sunset Marina, the actual revenue is at 99% of budget. Expenses are at 73% of the budget. And moving on to our last enterprise fund, Housing and Community Development Loan Fund, represents the issuance and collection of residential and business loans. Revenues, which represents the principal and interest payments, are below the target at 67%, while expenses are at 3% as no loan expenses were paid out during this month. So those expenses are really just banking services fees. All right, next we are going to move on to enterprise funds, and we have 5 listed there. We have the Equipment Maintenance Fund. It's reporting revenues at 128% and expenses at 86%. During the year, we actually separated the fund and created a separate fund for amortization. So we pulled that out, and that represented $1.4 million that was transferred. Hence, those revenues and expenses do look a little higher, but the end result, as far as the net position, is still the same. So we do have those 2 funds lumped together under equipment maintenance, since they really are, go together. Then we have Engineering Fund. It's reporting at 44% and expenses at 69%. Revenue is recorded through September. The Self-Insurance and Employee Health Benefit Funds are reporting revenues at 73% and 70% respectively, and expenses at 93% and 71% respectively. The hydroelectric plant revenues are not budgeted in 2021. Expenditures were reported due to the loss on the sale of assets. Then we have the Fiduciary Funds, which includes the Fire and Police Pension Trust Funds, which the city really does not own. Revenue is generated from employer contributions through property tax, employee contributions through pension deductions from payroll, and also investment income. And then we have the little small section 125, that's more of for employees, tax exempt payments of health insurance related expenses and dependent care. And last but not least, we have a component unit, which is the nonprofit side of the Martin Luther King Center. So they are reporting revenues at 57% due to lagging payments from the state of Illinois, and expenses at 68%. All right, so when we look at the total city position there, you see we're at, see, I can't really read that from a distance. You see that we are at 86% for revenue and 58% for expenses. So expenses are under by quite a bit, which is probably going to be a little helpful for us as we try to manage the budget for 2022. All right, so we are going to now look at about 9 state and local tax revenues we have here. Okay, so first we are going to look at the income tax, also known as the LGDF, Local Government Distribution Fund. So it's budgeted at $3.9 million for CY 2021, which is a reduction from the previous year's budget of $4.2 million. Actual revenue exceed budget at 106% for this 9-month period, while annual revenue projection is $5.1 million. So this is a 21% increase from the previous year's budget. As I mentioned, I think last month in the budget meeting, This income tax has really increased, and it's due to the rebounding labor market and extraordinary corporate income tax receipts. Then we have the replacement tax. The revenue is reported at 130% of the budget for calendar year 2021. Again, this is a significant increase due to higher business income tax payments from corporations. All right, we're going to move on to sales tax. So the sales tax revenue is reported at 90.2% of the budget. The annual projection is expected to be about 15% higher than budget, so that is looking good. Also, local option sales tax also looking good. This is the 1.25% that the city imposes because it is a home rule city. So the local option sales tax, as I said, is 89% of the budget. The annual projection is expected to be higher than the budget. Moving on to use tax. So the use tax is projected annual receipt is expected to be close to the budget there. So at 70, currently at 70%, and expected to be, like I said, pretty close to the budget amount. All right, next we have the municipal utility tax revenue, and that's at about 80%, which is slightly above the benchmark. Annual projections are expected to come in slightly higher than the budget. Telecommunications tax. This is not unexpected. It is at 54%. Annual projections are expected to be below the budgeted numbers. And last, but not, well, that's not the last one, two more. So food and beverage tax. This is on target at 76.9%. So that is good news also for us. And the gaming tax, as we've been talking about, that is coming in at 43% of the budget with an expected shortfall. However, we are optimistic for 2022 revenue. So, moving on, this particular page here represents the total expenditures for the general fund only. So as of September 30th, expenditures were at 67% of the revised budget, so below the 75%. And the last few pages is basically look at investment reports for the city. So right now our investments are at almost $48 million. Unfortunately, we're not earning a lot of interest, so we really try to, safeguard our assets and not really lose a lot of money. So that's it on the investment report. Are there any questions? Oh, financial management report.
Yep. Any questions? Those that are virtual? Doesn't sound like it. Want to move into your next presentation?
Presentation of the 5-year capital improvement plan.
Okay. Forward here. Okay, so council members have been provided with a detailed spreadsheet for the entire capital improvement plan, or CIP for short. While the plan covers a 5-year period, council only approves the upcoming year, which in this case is calendar year 2022. These recommendations are the culmination of several factors, starting with a review of last year's CIP plan, new request for CIP by department directors, and council goals compared against available funding. Any comments or changes you make this evening will be reflected in the final documents and ultimately in the annual 2020 budget for your final approval on December 13th, or the CIP approval on December 13th. So this presentation will go over some of the highlights within the CIP plan. Funding for CIP comes from several sources, and we will also review those. These recommendations outline financing plans consistent with the city's priorities and finances. So first, we will review the CIP at a high level. So the total requested CIP expenditures are $18 million. So to put it in perspective, the current last year, or the 2021 request, was also $18 million. There is a slight correction in my percentages. I did provide an update to the clerk, but I forgot to update this page. So I'm going to read some little different percentages. So more than 7.2 million, or 40.41%, as opposed to 47%, of requests pertain to miscellaneous and contributions. So if you were to look at your spreadsheet, the entire first page of that spreadsheet consists of contributions and miscellaneous in the category column. So maybe I'll just kind of click. Too small to read. Okay, so here. So like I said, that first, third column that has categories, those are all contributions and miscellaneous. So some of the things that are on there, like the gentleman's just talked about, is the Community Caring Conference. We have the Labor Day Parade. We have Quad City Chambers, Rock Island Arsenal Lobbying, Economic Development Opportunity, and then we have other items there also. And then if you go a few on the second page, there are also some miscellaneous listed there. Some are department requests. And also on the third page, the top have some more miscellaneous, such as new software and other, like I said, other department requests, like the King Center has a roof replacement request, Parks has a Douglas firehouse interior. So those are some of the miscellaneous contributions that are listed. All right. So part of that 40.41% as opposed to 47%. So over 3.2 million, or 17.83% instead of 16%, is expressly dedicated to street and roadway improvements, while 3 million is requested for principal and interest payments on debt. Equipment maintenance represents 2.4 million, or almost 14%, as opposed to 12% that's listed there. And last but not least, utilities, which include water, wastewater, and stormwater, represents 1.9 million, or about 11% of the total $18 million request. So as I mentioned, CIP projects are funded through various means. So this particular chart shows the funding sources. So rather than start with the largest slice of the pie, we're going to start with the gaming at 16.5%. So last year, gaming funds accounted for 30% of funding and supported many of the current unfunded requests, a lot of those items that we looked at earlier. So this year, gaming accounts for about $3 million in funding. All of this will go toward paying for the principal and interest payments on the debt. 14.4% represents contributions and grants. So those are funding sources. Examples of that is library has donations for the new branch, which represents 1.5 million. And then the state share of projects. For example, the Rock Island Parkway 85th Avenue improvement represents $1 million in contributions from the state. Then we have at 11.2% up there at the top left, that does represents user fees. User fees are approximately $2 million. The majority will go towards paying for water main replacement project on 11th Street between 25th and 42nd Avenue. Then we have 10% funding sources for fleet and equipment maintenance. So the 10% in red represents 1.8 million from the Equipment Replacement Fund. The funding comes from amortization costs charged to the departments. And then we have the other funding sources. This includes motor fuel, local gas tax, TIF funds for TIF-eligible projects, and some general funds. So we're going to go back to that largest slice of the pie at 29.8%. That does, at this time, represent unfunded sources. On that spreadsheet, you'll see a lot of TBDs, and that's to be determined. So that's, like I said, that's majority of our funding, or I don't think you can call it a funding source because it's unfunded at this time. All right, so let's move on to the next pie chart. This one pretty much is the same one with the correct percentages as the one I did earlier, so I don't want to spend too much time going over it. It's the same thing, just a different format for looking at it. We're just going to move on. So if we want to look at, some specifics, as pointed out earlier, 18% of the CIP expenditures are for street improvements and maintenance. So street projects planned for 2022 total $2.6 million and are financed by state funding, motor fuel tax revenue, and Rebuild Illinois grant. So some of those projects are listed there: the Rock Island Parkway and 85th Avenue, 37th Avenue and 46th Street reconstruction, and 22nd Street and 35th Avenue reconstruction. We also have street maintenance, which is funded by the local gas tax. This includes mill and fill. Mike would have to explain that. Sidewalk repair, brick street, and concrete street patching. So utilities. So the last chart showed that utilities were at 11% of the CIP expenses. The water fund has about 1.8 million designated for the 11th Street project and water main replacements, while wastewater and stormwater projects include those listed on the slide there. Wastewater at 123,000 and stormwater at about 35,000. Equipment maintenance has several requests. Some are supported by amortization dollars, while others, such as ambulance replacement, are currently unfunded. Debt service represents the principal and interest payments for projects or for debt services. But some projects that the debt service has funded over time includes the new police station, various street reconstruction projects, the police and fire 800 megahertz radio system, and almost completed Johnson Controls project. All right, so back to the miscellaneous, since there are a lot of miscellaneous. So the new library accounts for 2.5 million. However, 1.5 million is from the Rock Island Public Library Foundation. And see what else. And then they do have, I think, $1 million request in, which is currently unfunded. Economic Development, $1.6 million, and that includes the Southwest Rock Island redevelopment. It includes partnerships and contributions, facade improvements, and rebates. And then we have various others. A few that I have listed there includes the police body-worn cameras, the Martin Luther King Center building improvements, IT finance software, Parks Golf Clubhouse, and the fire alert system. So, unfunded projects currently represents $5.3 million, or 30% of the requested funding. So of this amount, $543,000 is recommended for funding using general fund dollars if there is no other funding source available. Some of these items do include the Bi-State Regional Commission, Community Caring Conference, DARI, Growth, Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, Quad City Arts, Quad City Chambers, River Action, Rock Island Arsenal Lobbying, Red, White, and Boom, and the Labor Day Parade. So as mentioned earlier, some of these were previously supported by gaming, while others are on the list for the first time as various department requests. So at this point, out of the $18 million in CIP requests, $13.2 million is being recommended for 2022. Last year, the recommendation totaled $12.5 million, so there's actually a slight increase this year of $700,000. And then the percentage breakdown is right there for the recommendation. All right, so we are on a tight timeline. We have to have some final decisions made in order to get this on the agenda for December 13th for council approval. So at this point, I guess I'll give it over, see if anyone has questions or comments, additional comments on it at this point.
Any questions?
Linda, this is
Go ahead.
Alderperson Parker. Thank you very much for your presentation and for the work that you do for the budget process as a whole. Just so I understand, for the line items in the CIP that have the TBD funding, am I understanding it correctly that we don't have a funding source identified for those line items, but we're budgeting them as being funded?
Well, the ones that we have under recommended with TBD, we are, if there's no funding source available, we are recommending the general fund to pay for those. And those total, I think, 500 something thousand.
542, Linda, I think.
How much was it?
542 or somewhere.
542,000.
So does that mean that we have closed the deficit that was in the general fund when we had our 2-on-2 meetings, and that's where the funding is coming from?
We are still working on closing it. We think it looks really good, so that's why we are making that recommendation. We just feel like we will have enough funds available to support those projects.
And are we using reserves at all this is not necessarily CIP, but are we using reserves to balance the budget this year?
Yes, we will be. So we're trying to identify how much we will need to use in reserves to balance the budget.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Anybody else have any questions? Or?
So just out of curiosity, so this is a situation where we have 5 $0.3 million unfunded, correct? So this is a situation where we could use ARPA funds to cover that, or would, yeah, is where it would, that is what, something that is a potential thing to do?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And then just kind of going back to the requested and recommended, it's not unusual to have $4 or $5 million recommended, less, less than the requested, which was like the same as last year. So I guess if there's items that are unfunded, that are not recommended, and, you really feel like it should be, maybe that, the ARPA would be under revenue replacement, an option.
And how much did we, so in our 2-on-2 meetings, we discussed the portion of the general fund going to the Parks Department and the library. I think I'm understanding this correctly. Are they getting the amount that they have requested, or less than that in this proposed budget?
I think we are recommending 7.5% based on the property tax levy presentation that we gave. So a little less, I think, than they requested.
And if we kept the tax, I gotta keep levy and rate different here. If we keep the tax rate the same, because we're lowering the rate, right? Or are we lowering the levy?
The levy
You know what I
is, yeah, the levy is increasing, but only because of the EAV. We're keeping the tax rate the same, which does still provide for additional funds for library and parks.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Looking good. Normally, we're talking about a tax increase or something, and so, thank you.
Correct.
There's no other questions? Appreciate it. We're on item number 14.
Report from the Mayor's Office regarding an amendment to Chapter 3, Section 3-8, type of licenses and fees of the Code of Ordinances to allow for Class P, bring your own beverage, BYOB, second reading.
Motion to pass the ordinance.
Second?
Moved in second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Alderperson Robinson.
Aye.
Hurt.
Yes.
Swanson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Pulis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 15.
Claims. A, report from the Information Technology Department regarding renewal of the ESRI GIS system annual maintenance agreement with ESRI Inc. of Redlands, California, in the amount of $19,500.
Motion to approve the claims, item A.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Alderperson Robinson.
Aye.
Hurt.
Yes.
Swanson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Pulis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 16.
Claims for the week of October 29th through November 4th, 2021, in the amount of $422,695.23. And for the week of November 5th through November 11th, 2021, in the amount of $1,244,783.37. And payroll for the weeks of October 18th through October 13th, 2021, in the amount of $1,495,012.72. And for the weeks of November 1 through November 14th, in the amount of $1,542,355.05.
Move to allow the claims and payroll.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Alderperson Robinson.
Aye.
Hurt.
Yes.
Swanson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Pulis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 17.
ACH payments for the month of October 2021 in the amount of $1,325,746.86.
Motion to approve the ACH payments.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call.
Alderperson Robinson.
Aye.
Hurt.
Yes.
Swanson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Pulis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 18.
Purchase card claims for the period of September 28th through October 26th, 2021, in the amount of $55,073.71.
Motion to approve the purchase card claims. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call.
Alderperson Robinson.
Aye.
Hurt.
Yes.
Swanson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Pulis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 19.
Report from the Human Resources Department regarding a recommendation from USI to renew the self-insurance package with IPMG in the amount of $597,844, as well as a brokerage payment to USI in the amount of $25,000.
Motion to approve the self-insurance package as recommended and approve payments to IPMG and USI.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call.
Alderperson Robinson.
Aye.
Hurt.
Yes.
Swanson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Pulis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 20.
Report from the Community and Economic Development Department regarding a zoning variance request from Whitey's Ice Cream Shop at 2520 18th Avenue to allow a drive-through on the west side of the building.
Move to approve the variance as recommended.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Just wanted to make sure that it is on record that the city is not putting any money into any development on that. So that
Go ahead,
there was some
Miles.
concern.
So normally, this is a B1 neighborhood business zoned district that Whitey's happens to be in. It may not be obvious because it's on a major thoroughfare, but it's a lower intensity use district where we wouldn't normally allow a drive-through. They came to us and asked if they could incorporate one into the building because they had a lot of success over COVID having that kind of drive-up service. We worked with them to try and make some on-site changes that you can see shown in the drawings with the report so they could get the appropriate stacking space on site. When you exit the drive-through, if we can look at the map here real quick, if it can be rotated at all.
Can't look sideways?
And the one below, there's one that came from the engineer, I think, that might be a little bit more illustrative. I think one more down. Right here. So here you can see, normally we have a minimum stacking space requirement of 6 vehicles. That means on the site itself you have to have room for 6 cars to line up to the window. So we worked with them to come up with this layout, which will meet that requirement. One of the things we don't tend to like to see is a drive-through that goes out into an alleyway. We do have some in the community, though, where there's just physically no other way to make it work. In this case, it's actually a one-way alleyway that would require that when you exit the drive-through, you go west. So you're going to take a right, and it's toward the end of the alleyway. So we felt the impact would be relatively minimal because you won't have anyone waiting in the alleyway. They'll just be exiting out the alleyway. The alleyway is in pretty good condition. There was no request to make any improvements or changes to it. None are needed. So really, the city has no investment here except a little staff time to try and negotiate out an on-site arrangement that will work pretty well. One other change I would just point out, because during this COVID period when they've had this drive up, there has been a little confusion with the traffic flow. There has been a change proposed here to angle all of the parking so that on the northeast entrance to the site, that would be the way in, and then the northwest entrance to the parking lot will actually now become an exit. So with that angled parking, it all becomes a one-way through to allow for the traffic to flow a lot better and more safely through that site. So I hope that explains a little bit about what is going on here and kind of what the city's role in the design has been.
Is that going to cause any more issues with the traffic flow on 18th Avenue other than what already exists?
We actually think that this should help a little bit. At the height of summer, some of you may have stopped to grab ice cream. I bought ice cream for the staff a couple of times. And, you know, it was just a bit all over the place. This should actually make it a little bit better, we think. It's impossible to say for sure, but having it all going one way should help to alleviate some of the congestion we saw going in and out of that site.
Okay, and another question with the increased traffic in the alleyway there that obviously there will be increased traffic there. What does that do to the lifespan or future maintenance costs for that alleyway?
I would have to defer to the Public Works Director on that question. It's a concrete alleyway in relatively good shape. You can actually drop yourself in Google Street View in this particular alleyway and take a look at it yourself. It doesn't, to me, seem that it needs any serious immediate repair.
No, it's in pretty good shape, the concrete alley. The only thing that really needs addressed is the alley approach that connects to 25th Street, which we're scheduled to replace next year. But other than that, it will not, the additional traffic will not cause any issues to further maintenance for us. Not in the immediate future, probably, 15 or 20 years down the road, yes, but not at this time.
Thank you.
It was.
Okay, so it's nothing.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Miles, real quick, so going through the alleyway, and I have not been down that alleyway to inspect the, like, garage entryways and things like that. Will this interfere with residents? I don't even know how that's set up back there, but.
Yeah, I'm almost tempted, since we don't have that many agenda items. Tim, is it outrageous to pull up Street View for Google Maps? It's just the easy. Basically, what you have here on the south side of the alleyway is all single-family houses. Pretty nearly every property has a garage that abuts. There have been commercial uses on the north side of the alleyway for many, many years that they have coexisted with. As any sort of thing happens on the north side that requires a variance like this, they all get notice from us. The BZA previously had a public hearing about this case, so all of those folks were invited to comment. We did get a few letters that were not really objections. They were just kind of letting us know how the residents thought about it. One of them, rather amusingly, and I thought in very good humor, just asked that Whitey's consider paying to have it the snow plowed more often in the alleyway. But the actual impact will probably be relatively minimal. There's already traffic utilizing that alleyway to go in and out of that site. And again, the thing with this drive-through and the thing that staff was focused on was avoiding anybody sitting in the alleyway. In this arrangement, the last car in the line before you go into the alleyway is the person paying, grabbing the ice cream, and then they're going to get out of there. So there shouldn't be a situation where anyone is really blocking any of the garages that are there facing the alleyway or anything like that. Of course, anywhere along the 18th Avenue corridor or any of our commercial corridors, there are these conflicts between residential and commercial uses. This was a similar concern recently on the 31st Street McDonald's special use permit. We have to navigate those as best we can. Let's see here. Yep, right there. Red, right there. Yep. Want to drop the little yellow man right in there? Right there, perfect. So if we look around and just kind of rotate looking, click and drag, Tim, click and drag. Here you go. So just kind of looking back, so you see where that door is on the side of the building? That's the approximate location of where the service window will be, right at the end. You can see that the concrete in the alleyway is in pretty good shape. People hang right because it's already designated as a one-way alleyway, so they drive towards where we're standing right now. You can see all the garages there. It's kind of tough to imagine a scenario where they're going to be significantly impacted or impacted in any way that's really different than how they're being impacted now.
So who owns that blue dumpster?
That one specifically, I'm not sure. It may or may not still be here. These images could be as old as 2011. That's typically how a lot of the street view.
I think it's still there, so.
It could be, yeah.
Yeah, so I walk here frequently with my grandchildren, and I'm thrilled by the fact that the drive-through is gonna exit into the alley and not enter through the alley, because that would be.
Yeah, we
a
would,
huge
that would not have been something we would
problem.
allow.
But that dumpster right there, even with, and a fair amount of cars exit out there anyhow. I mean, anybody that parks on that side of Whitey's exits out the alley. They don't go out to 18th Street because it's too hard to get out on 18th Street. But that dumpster is kind of a,
An
safe-
obstacle.
It's a safety hazard, because if you're walking there and the traffic is there, you can't see people, so.
Okay, well, we can certainly ask around and figure out whose dumpster it is. From the looks of it, to be honest with you, I can't quite tell. It is the Whitey's dumpster?
So
We
maybe-
can certainly
maybe
reach
they-
out to them and ask them if they could perhaps move it or relocate it. Obviously, what we'd love to see is if it was in an enclosure, but we can't retroactively require things like that. So we'd certainly talk to them about it if that's a concern.
Yeah, okay.
One final question, Miles. Okay, so since this access is going to be, exit way is going to be utilized by, brings up a good point you talked about earlier, who will be maintaining the plowing of that area there? I mean, what if they plow their drive, that's full of snow? Whose responsibility is that going to be?
I think it is currently plowed by, well, it's not by us, but I think it's by some of the business owners are already plowing it to some extent.
Whitey's, we plow that whole back alley
Yeah.
of the building right now, and we can plow that whole alley if we, it'd be okay to do that.
Okay, just a question, thank you.
Yeah. I would also point out, you can see a couple other businesses, their whole parking lots only access onto the alleyway. So there's a few businesses already that use it exclusively as their one way in and out.
Okay, thank you for pulling that up, that clarified some.
I thought this might help a little bit to see it, because it's just one, if you've probably been through it, but you didn't really look at it very closely, but.
We're eating our ice cream then.
Yeah, so, and again, you know, we
The lid off.
we tend to try to, as best we can, avoid having drive-throughs utilize alleyways, but there are certain circumstances where there's just no other way around it.
Any other questions?
No, thank you very much.
Thank you, Whitey's, for being here, and not just here, but even in Rock Island and commitment and everything else. Appreciate the business. Roll call.
Alderperson Robinson?
Aye.
Hurt?
Yes.
Swanson?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Pulis?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 21.
Report from the Finance Department regarding changes to the city's hotel motel ordinance.
Motion to consider the ordinance subject to minor attorney modifications.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call.
Alderperson Robinson?
Aye.
Hurt?
Yes.
Swanson?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Pulis?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 22, other business. Anybody have
Quick.
anything?
Yes.
I meant-
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dylan.
I meant to bring this up in the agenda item that we just voted on, but I missed it. So real quick, before you go, Moses. So the hotel motel tax revenue, we had discussed a year or so ago during last year's budget that we were going to allocate that towards tourism initiatives in Rock Island. Hasn't been that successful this first year of getting that program up off the ground. However, I see in the CIP budget, the event sponsorship citywide, which this past year was funded through hotel motel tax revenue, is not recommended for funding. Is it still our intention to use hotel motel tax revenue to fund tourism initiatives, or has that idea gone by the wayside? And now we're just sloughing it into the general fund to shore up general fund expenditures like we have done forever.
Dylan, this is Randy. It's still an option that we're looking at.
Thank you, Randy. Nice to hear from you. I guess I'm not particularly satisfied with that answer. If we are going to invest in tourism, we need to invest in tourism. So I'll just make that statement with respect to the upcoming budget vote.
Yeah, it will be the staff recommendation.
Thank you.
Was there somebody else? Moses, were you saying something?
Yeah, this is in reference to the public comment we had today about the African American Civil Rights Grant. I've been in contact with Randy. I know, he was out sick and everything. So I've been in contact with him and also the group that spoke tonight, and working on getting a meeting together. There are some issues that we definitely have to address with this. I understand that this was a last minute grant, but I think the problem that we're having is that there's a miscommunication in between those facts, because they're stating that it wasn't enough time to notify anybody, but then when they're questioned, they're listing all these people that they supposedly talked to. So I think there's just there's a problem with the way that the information is being channeled through to everyone, and we know that we have communication issues. So that's something that we have to address going forward. This issue it's blown up way out of control at this point. We got to get a handle on it. We have to understand the concerns that the public have and address those concerns before we move forward. I know Randy has mentioned that he is willing to schedule a meeting with them and hopefully hold that off of the agenda item until that meeting has been done, and then we can figure out how we need to move forward with this. But there's a lot of concerns that have been brought up. One major one is who will be in charge or who will own the testimonies and the information that's going to be, submitted. So there's a lot of things that we've kind of got ourselves caught into as a city, even though it's a pass-through type of funding, but we are on the grant. So we're going to be held accountable if that stuff isn't done correctly, especially with it being a federal grant. So I think that we have to address those issues before we really move forward to understand kind of what we got ourselves into.
Okay, good. I'm sure they'll have that meeting. You guys going to work hard at it.
And I just have one thing. So I've had conversations with several people in the city that don't seem to understand. I get complaints about how expensive the gas is. And so I just want to reiterate to people that if you buy gas in Rock Island, a percentage of your gas payment goes to the city as a gas tax, which then is used to help fix your roads. So I'm surprised that a lot of people still don't know that. So while it's great to drive over to Iowa and get cheaper gas there, what you're doing is you're helping their economies and helping their city. And if you could just purchase your gas in Rock Island, then that tax goes into our city funding and it helps us repair your roads. And so we need you to buy lots of gas in Rock Island so that we can repair all of our roads.
And 1% also goes to the school district.
Yes, that's true. It does.
So it's helping your schools.
One thing we probably can do to help with that, though, is the roads that are fixed from that gas tax, let's put a signage up. Yeah. Repaired based on your spending, because I'm agreeing with you there, Alderperson Swanson. No one knows.
Yeah.
And we know because we're on council and we hear about it. But before I became a council member, I had no idea. I used to always go to Davenport because it was this cheaper. When you look at the cost, you're going to look at something that's cheaper. You're not understanding the investment that you're putting it back in. But I think if people know that by seeing the signage, and I know signage costs money and stuff like that, but it also helps promote the fact of getting more people to buy into what we're trying to get them to do.
All right. Any other comments? I want to say that, once again, Alderman Judith Gilbert is absent tonight. She had a death in the family. A niece, 30-year-old niece, passed away unexpectedly up in the Chicago market. She's had unfortunate deal here lately. She's had a number of deaths in the family. And so our prayers are out with her. But that's the reason for her absence, and so.
I'll just
Go ahead.
publicly mention my intention to not vote for the budget as it has been proposed, understanding that we need to have a budget voted on by January 1st. I don't want to spring this last minute and try to work things out, and I don't know where my colleagues are at, but again, we are using reserves to shore up the budget, and I have a number of other concerns. I think it's insufficient, and so I do not plan on voting for the budget. Happy to chat with any of my colleagues or department directors, but just putting that out there.
Thank you. Anything else? I'd like a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Assume there's no discussion. Roll call.
Alderperson Robinson,
So what if I go on for this very long filibuster and have it, no, I'm sorry.
You can do that, sir. We'll see if we invite you next time. No.
It's easy to do when you're sitting at home.
When you said that, Mayor, I'm sorry, it just brought up the congressman who did that. I think he talked for 12 hours.
I think
to
you're
stop
right.
the vote.
I think you're right.
Ron
You're
Paul
right.
from Kentucky.
And I love the sense of humor. Keep it up. Thank you.
I have to. I got to get this out. I got to get it back.
There you go. Okay, let's go. I'm sorry.
Was that an aye?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay. Hurt,
Yes.
Swanson,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Poulos.
Aye.
Meetings
I
adjourned.
want it real quick before we do sign off. Happy Thanksgiving. Everybody have a safe and happy Thanksgiving.